What's going on, Texas fans? It's Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live. I'm here just to talk a little bit about the Texans' recent game against the Jags and talk about the current state going into this tough week against the Bills. Please like, subscribe, share. Let's get it. It's Lance Hayes with Sports Social Live. Like, subscribe, follow, do what you need to do to stay in tune because we are providing Texans content. The Texans played the Jags last week, and it was a lackluster game to say the least. I really have tons of thoughts about this game. It just was a tough game to watch for a team with such high expectations, a ton of potential, and just they lack discipline. And we have to stop our thoughts there with the lack of discipline slowed down the offensive production and the team production tremendously. Stupid plays made by the offensive line. Laramie Tunsil, your big money, $25 million left tackle, making elementary plays and getting calls against them. It just was not up to the expectations that the Texans had going down the stretch. We cannot have those plays against the team, nor can we have that type of lack of a tenacity and grit from our offensive line. But on the positive side, we have the people with the tenacity and grit making big time plays. You have Nico Collins going crazy, literally going crazy out there at receiver. He's probably the most underpaid, big time performing receiver that is out there. And unfortunately, we cannot seem to get over this hump with our offensive line to even show our full potential, our full arsenal of receivers. Without Tank Dell, you still saw Nico Collins getting open and being that number one receiver that we have paid him to be. And you have Diggs still getting out there producing and not even producing up to his full capability. I did not mind what I saw from the Texans. I did from the Texans receiving core, no, or CJ Stroud for that matter. He could improve in some areas, and I will expand upon those throughout the week. But I'm not mad at what the receiving core is doing, especially running downfield. And they were actually getting in there and blocking downfield for those plays. The receiving core is a positive note because not only are they running routes full speed and trying to find the opening seams, you can see them actively working the scramble drill. Nico Collins worked the scramble drill to perfection, and that's how he's able to get open and call some big plays for CJ Stroud late in the play buildup. So I'm happy with the work that our receiving core is doing out there, even with Tank Dell as out. I'm also okay with CJ Stroud's play. I do feel like CJ Stroud could possibly improve his game because no defense is wondering if he's going to pull the ball down and run. He tried about 4 times in the game to pull the ball down and scramble a little bit more. But I definitely think he can improve there and just take what the defense gives them when they fall back into those soft zones, trying to make up for the lack of DB coverage on Nico Collins, Diggs. So CJ Stroud can improve in that fact, but other than that, he is doing well at protecting the ball and scrambling to make the big time plays. But in this episode, we're going to discuss a little bit more. We're going to go a little bit deeper and not just talk about what's easy to talk about. It's easy to talk about the O-line being a bad factor, and they are subpar. Let's be clear. The O-line is subpar. But you can tell they lack that tenacity and grit that comes out of an O-line with a number one running back there, as in Mixon. So let's talk about it. Mixon being out, does that make you not play with tenacity and grit? Does that not make you play like you want to get to a championship? That is the difference between a top tier contending offensive line and our subpar offensive line. I see that Philly offensive line, when they have a rotation of backs and injuries, they don't lack the grit and tenacity. They're still firing off the ball. The tush push still works. You go to San Francisco, when they don't have their number one running back, McCaffrey is out, they're still firing off the ball and blocking with tenacity and grit. The Ravens, when Henry's out of the game, they don't care. They're firing off the ball with tenacity and grit, and they're getting things done. So when we take those teams, those contending teams into play, even the Bills, they're doing it as well. You take that in all into account. The Texans' offensive line is highly paid and undergritted, if that's even a word. It's probably not a word. The Texans offensive line just lacks that fire off the ball, that fire in their butts to get off the ball and protect and make those plays. It doesn't matter who the running back is back there. And let's be clear, J.J. Taylor, you have Derek, you have um, Cam Akers. They're not Joe Mixon, but they couldn't even get to the line of scrimmage without running into contact and having to make plays down the line. So I am concerned about that offensive line production and what they can do for the team. I am concerned. Mixon is a factor, and I'm happy that we rested him for this week against the Jags, because if we would have played him and rushed him back, would have had lingering issues throughout the year. And the Texans have done a terrible job, I believe, at keeping these guys healthy down the stretch, and that's the best ability is availability in football. So let Mixon rest and then get ready. He's an explosive cutting runner and going downhill. So we need that ankle. And that ankle injury could possibly work its way up to a soft tissue injury. And those just linger on throughout the year. So I'm okay. But if the offensive line just can't sit back and take off because they don't have that dynamic running back there that's going to get you that 3 to 4 yards after contact, we have to do something, and they have to show that tenacity and grit there. Mixon also makes play calling easier for Slowick. Slowick seems to stat wise he does well, but Slowick seems to kind of rely on that stud of a running back to get things going. And Mixon does make that play calling easier for Slowick, as he would for anybody. I can't complain about what he brings to the table, but you definitely want Mixon to be out there and make the play calling easier for the team. That's huge. So I'm hoping that Mixon's able to come in and light that fire under the offensive line, because Dare has been playing with a spark, and you see that grit, you see that tenacity, how he's been playing. He's cutting the defenders, splitting defenders to get the extra yard for a first down. He scored, rightfully so, scored that touchdown at the end of the game. He is playing with tenacity and grit and that extra step of explosion that we are missing from our offensive line. I also think that Mixon also as an element to our tight ends and the blocking in the backfield. You got to give the credit, because those chip blocks that he has do some damage to those defenders who are running through the backfield, and he also catches it out the backfield. I'm wondering why Cam Akers was not utilized in that receiving game a little bit more as well. So Mixon throws a different game, and we are missing Mixon. And that's an interesting segue into something that I kind of want to discuss as well, is that the play calling. So our play calling has not been poor, but the play calling that we have called does not fit the attributes of our offensive line. Our offensive line is subpar. So you can't, it seems like Bobby Slowick is running the same plays he would have run with a top tier offensive line. We cannot afford to do that, unfortunately, because we have a subpar offensive line. You need more level routes. You need more quick routes that will get the ball out of Stroud's hand to get the defense a little bit more on their heels if you're going to do that. You cannot, our subpar line makes it to where Stroud is having to work a little bit much to get the ball out of his hands, and those routes that are developing on the back end, our line just don't make it easy for Stroud to be successful. If you actually take notice, Trevor Lawrence had a ton of time in the pocket on a few plays, but he has a top interior offensive guard that is not making it easy for that center of the pocket to be crashed down. So when you have that, Trevor Lawrence was able to make that good cup and get up in the pocket a lot of the time which allowed Kirk and Thomas Jr. to get down the field and make explosive plays. And he missed, quite frankly, he missed game-winning throws. But that offensive line that they have is actually good, which you can see in the decrease in pressures from our defense. So I'm okay with the play calling, but Sloat needs to revamp and kind of modify his play calling to the offensive line that we currently have, to our personnel that we currently have. It's kind of a catch-22 though. Do you call, what talent you have on outside? Do you make the offensive line play up to the level that you want, or do you call the plays down to that level, which leads to itself to mediocrity? I have a question. What do you say? So tell me down in the chat, tell me down below, like, subscribe, share to Sports Social Live at Sports Social TV on Twitter. You see me commenting, you see us commenting on different posts. Hey, we're getting active out here. Another thing I want to bring up is the Texans versus Jags. Just some of the stats that we put out against our team stats that we've been putting out. So CJ Stroud's on pace to have another great season. You have Joe Mixon out here leading the way, Nico Collins leading the way. And one thing I want to discuss is hearing Tua, the activity that he's had on defense. He's being a leading scorer on the defensive end. If you take a look here, Tua is balling. He has 32 tackles so far throughout the season, and I'm not mad at what he's doing. And Alshire, they are playing great football now, and that is what we need to do to win. Imagine adding back to the mix Harris, adding Autry back to the mix. This front seven seems to be a solidified front seven. They're also taking into account that our DBs are in the game, our cornerbacks are in the game the whole time. And I've noticed that. I saw a few people discuss this as well. It looked tiring, and that's why they're probably not following receivers. When you bring back Harris potentially, you bring back Autry, you bring in that front seven, solidify that, will we be able to make a few plays on the defensive side? But I have to give a shout out to Henry Toa. He's having a great season, being really efficient, getting back in pass coverage. Those plays that are getting through are DB plays, a lot on Petrie, and a lot of people are going at Petrie. But hey, I'm not mad at what we're doing. I mean, the Jags offensive line actually played a solid game, and I think people are not giving them enough credit where it's due. So we have to be cognizant of that when we do discuss our defense. And then just to discuss the defense for a little, chill. Texas fans, we have to chill and be realistic. The defense is playing well. They went against a decent offensive line. They paid Trevor Lawrence. They also paid their offensive guards. They have a decent offensive line. Trevor Lawrence is going to get good, solid pockets. Yes, we have Will Anderson Jr. Yes, we have people making plays. But they have a good offensive line, man. You can't be mad at it. So the pressures weren't there this game, but they're going to come, especially when Autry gets back in the lineup, coming up the middle. It's going to be okay. Relax. But what can Will Anderson Jr. do to get more pressures? I mean, he's fighting, he's doing a lot, he's being held, but you're not going to get every call. I think they keep on going, pinning their ears back like they have, and it's going to work out. I'm okay with the front seven. I'm okay with what we're doing. I just need an offensive line and defense and anybody who gets in the game just to minimize the undisciplined nature of play that we've been having from the Texans. This undisciplined play is terrible, and that is causing us to lack in productivity and lack in tenacity, lack in grit. We clean that undisciplined nature up, I believe that we are back to that. We're fulfilling that expectation that we had, and we are back to that can this team be a contending team? Hey, that's all I have today. I'm Lance Hayes. This is Sports Social Live. As always, like, subscribe, share, follow us on Twitter at Sports Social TV. Salute. Big